sports are really important vehicles for relationships.
We have purpose. We have a why. We bring people together. We connect.
I feel like God is our greatest supporter and our greatest coach.
Welcome to a special edition of Rabbi On The Sidelines. I'm Rabbi Erez Sherman from Sinai Temple in Los Angeles. This week, we are joined by a truly special person who not only talks the talk, but walks the walk. That's NBA veteran Meyers Leonard, University of Illinois star, played in the NBA for the Portland Trail Blazers and Miami Heat, and right now, right here in Los Angeles at Sinai Temple. Meyers, it's so good to have you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
So not only are we here, but we are sitting in a sanctuary of a synagogue in one of the largest Jewish communities in the world, actually, in Los Angeles. 3 years ago, did you think you were going to be sitting on a pulpit in a synagogue in one of the largest congregations in North America?
The honest answer is no.
I agree.
However, I want to start with this. I actually have a really close relationship in Miami. He's with the Miami Heat, Jewish man. His name's Steve. He and I are very close friends. And when everything went down in March of 2021, I remember he was one of the first people to reach out to me and say, "Look, Meyers, I know your heart, and I know that you'll make this right." And the reason I bring this up, based upon what you just asked me, is because, if he had asked me, "Hey, would you go to, a synagogue here in Miami and speak to the kids?" I would have said in a heartbeat, of course I would. As I've explained and as I know in my heart, everything happened from sheer ignorance, which is on me. It was a mistake. I own it 100%. And, I say no. I wouldn't think 3 years ago I'd be sitting here, but we all have a different journey in life. And, I truly, at all times, try to love all people and connect with anyone and everyone. So it's an honor to be here.
Well, it's actually amazing because right before we went on the air, we took a tour around the synagogue and we saw two very different things. We saw elementary school students learning our prayers, and then we saw middle school students in an exchange with a Muslim school in a synagogue. What were your thoughts just walking around our community, seeing this exchange of ideas of our youngest people?
Not only seeing it today, but in speaking with you, I just have this understanding of a level of connection and love and bringing people together. That's one of the most amazing things. And honestly, I know we'll dig into this a little deeper. That's the thing I felt immediately, which is frankly the thing I was most scared of or frightened by was what are they going to think of me? When I first pulled up to a Chabad to speak to this man named Rabbi Penny, who I'm now still very close with, I was so worried, and yet I've just been loved the entire time. And so to see it here today is really special for me. To see something, hearing you talk about it is special, and then seeing it with my own eyes
Absolutely.
is incredible. The ability for us to connect, to understand each other, to learn about new cultures and new ways of life, and just the ultimate thing about just love. And that's also what I've experienced, and so I'm so thankful for.
On this show, we speak about sports and faith. There have been people who are Jewish, who are not Jewish, who say they're of faith, they're of not faith, but we speak about the elements of faith. And one of those storylines in your own history was actually through a church and this family that you were semi-adopted with.
Sure.
Because your own story is just, I don't want to say traumatic, but inspiring in terms of how you persevered to live this American dream. And this family that you were adopted by, I read an ESPN.com article in 2012, took you to church. So what was that faith aspect growing up in this small town of Illinois? What did that look like, and how did it play out in your own life?
Sure. So if you've ever seen the movie The Blind Side,
of course.
It's kind of similar. There's obviously differences, but my father passed when I was 6. My brother was 8, and we struggled hard, and it was difficult. But the thing about it is as I now have a child, and I'm a man, an adult, I think of how hard my mother worked just to make ends meet and try to do everything she possibly could for us. And then I think it was just kind of known around town that we didn't have a lot and that we were struggling. And so that's the beauty of community. Just like we were just talking about here,
Right.
that's what I felt, but from my hometown. And then specifically speaking, the Seiler family, they stepped in really for no reason other than what I always come back to, love. Their oldest son, Austin, and I are the same age.
Right.
And then I'm very close, of course, with the young brother, Aaron, and a sister that I never had, Abby. And so they started taking, we met at a basketball camp, which is interesting, how we're speaking about sports and faith. And that's how it all started. We were just at a basketball camp, and Austin and I connected. Like I said, we're in the same class and everything. And it went from, I joined him at church once, and then it became every other week, and then every Sunday, and then every Sunday, and then I'd go to grandma's house afterwards for, lunch. And so they really, we connected immediately, and it just became, again, love. And so being in the church, from that point on was interesting for me at first. I had never really experienced what faith meant, or, I believed in God because I guess that was just, I don't know, a thought that I had,
right,
or what I had at least been exposed to somewhat, but just not in a church. And so I was baptized, and now as I look back, I realize how much closer I've drawn to God because of the worst moment of my life. And I'll never forget sitting across from Rabbi Penny. This is 48 hours after everything had happened.
Right.
We get about 5 minutes into our conversation there at his Chabad, and I am pouring tears. I mean, waterworks, couldn't stop him. And he said, "Hey, I need to stop you for a second." And I said, "Okay." I'm like, "Oh boy, what is he about to say to me?" And he said, "Look, Meyers, you're a good man with a good soul. I know that. People that I've talked to about you, even in these 2 days, have spoke very highly of you, and I sense it right here, right now. But I want you to understand that this happened for you, not to you."
Yes.
And in the moment, I don't think I could really rationalize or understand what he was trying to tell me. But now, as we're about 2 years out, and as I've, like I just said, drawn closer to God and all these different things, so many higher level blessings have actually entered my life now after the worst mistake of my life. So it's just so interesting how life unfolds. In fact, hold on. I hate that I'm pulling my phone out, but I saw this in the parking garage as I was pulling up this morning, and I just wanted to share it. It says, "Every journey has secret destinations of which the traveler is unaware." It said that.
Power of Sinai Temple's parking garage, pretty good.
It hit me right there. You never know what you might see,
Right.
what you might hear, who you might connect with. And so, wow, it's been a wild journey for me. It really has. And so, yeah, let me stop for a second, let you...
And on your Twitter, you pinned something to the top, which is so powerful because every single person that goes on that feed sees this. And it says, I quote, 280 characters is not enough to express my appreciation for the Jewish community. But it sounds like the Jewish community is a microcosm, though, of, I would say, actually this country and the world right now. That how do we bring these aspects of love and faith into that? And so how would you bring it back into the NBA, where over this past year we've seen maybe some division? How do we... The only reason that I'm speaking to you is because of two things: a basketball that I love and faith that I love. There's no other way that we should even be in conversation or know each other. And that's the same with so many things about sports, that a ball brings many different people together.
Sure.
So the ball's the beginning. If you had a magic genie, what would be the next step of bringing those people together after that ball is in play?
There's a few things here, in my opinion. From what I experienced, learning about each other is just so important. And whether we're youngsters in sports or at the highest level in the NBA, I think we'll get into this as well, but we have huge platforms. And, people are watching us on TV. We have social media, and we have a real, honestly, responsibility to impact people in a positive way. And for me, I just was pretty shut off to a lot of the outside world, I think, because I was honestly afraid. I was, at 20, just boom, an NBA player. And I had worked very hard.
And you're not the only one. So many of
course,
NBA players are at 20, boom.
And it's an interesting thing. It really is. We are incredibly, incredibly blessed, as I was telling the kids earlier. And, I mean, 9 years in the NBA playing a game that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not saving lives. We're not teaching kids about life or about different, educational pieces. We're playing a game. And so the more that we can learn about each other, the more we can educate ourselves, and the more we can just openly communicate about frustrations or different things, because we don't always have to see eye to eye. I think uncomfortable conversations certainly were difficult for me, but I think they have to happen in order for us all to grow. We started off this very conversation with, Meyers, would you be here 3 years ago if you would have thought it? No, but I'm here now.
Right.
And so it's my responsibility to not only explain what I've been through, but some of the things I've learned, and just try to help, maybe even if I impact one person, 10, 100, however many it may be. They might say, oh, wow, this guy went through this. Here's how maybe I'll handle a mistake or something that happens to me in my life. That's my only hope.
And is there a player that you can think of, either Illinois or an NBA, that you didn't know before, but when you met the other during your time, you're like, wow, that opened my mind to something that I didn't know, and now I appreciate even more?
Wow, I say NBA players come from so many different backgrounds. Right. A lot of times, tough backgrounds, don't come from a lot of money, less fortunate, all of that. A vast majority of NBA players are African American, but then you got guys that come from Europe.
Right.
You got guys coming from South America. I mean, me, small town, just blue collar people. I mean, so many different people that you can engage with and learn from. And that's, I look back and I wish I had more and I've always loved my teammates and had exceptional relationships with them. But the learning aspect and trying to really go to a different level, I don't know that maybe I just didn't have the confidence to do it. And so I guess if there was one, man, there's
there's many.
No, I don't even think it's possible. I would just go to what I guess the public sees in some of these guys, like Damian Lillard, exceptional. From Oakland, counted out early on, goes to Weber State, pretty sure he was the #1 scorer in the nation, 6th pick by the Blazers, and just took off with his career. Unbelievable human being, great teammate, loyal, loving, family man, exceptional. Or you see things like, around the league, because I hadn't been around him, Jimmy Butler. Whoa, he's too hard on his teammates. No, he's not. Jimmy is one of the most unbelievable teammates I've ever had, if not at the top.
Wow.
All he wants you to do, from what I experienced, is work hard, care about the team, and want to win at all costs. And so I've just run into so many different personalities and backgrounds. I'm really thankful for everybody that I've run into.
But those two lessons go well beyond the court, right? A boss, a friend, a family member, all based on love is what we want from each other. Work hard, make sure it pays off, to make sure that our lives are a little better tomorrow than they are today. And so what does that mean in terms of you being a new dad? I know you gush over your amazing wife and son, and you told me when we met for the first time that I believe it was your wife that told you, like, if you quit now, what does it mean to your child? Take us through that conversation, and maybe that's why you're here.
Maybe. Quickly to just rewind, everything I believe truly happens for a reason. And I said this on the Jeremy Schaap piece. If you're a good person and you work hard, I wholeheartedly believe that things are going to work out. And I know people go through difficult times, but we got to find a way to persevere. And we all come from different places, but we can make it happen. And it's just about putting one foot in front of the other. But now that I think about what Penny said to me, it happened for you. There's, like I said, so many things that have come about. And frankly, my wife and I don't really argue that often. We don't. We have a very strong relationship. And I am so incredibly blessed to have her in my life. She is the rock of our household, driven, smart, beautiful. I mean, I could go on and on about her. I'm very
She's coming
blessed.
next time.
That's right. And I'll never forget that we were fighting way more than we ever had. It was primarily around, frankly, I was scared. I wanted to run away from everything. I really did. I thought it was best to run away from the NBA. I thought it was best to run away from the media and being, frankly, like somewhere like here, speaking about this. But at the end of the day, it was always going to be the right thing, and I just had to find my way into the confidence of doing it. And she said to me, "Look, I can't argue with you about this anymore. I'm just going to say one more thing." And I said, "Okay." I didn't have any idea what she was going to say, and we knew at that point that she was pregnant. And
Wow.
She said, "Look, Liam's not even here yet, but what are you going to do if he's 6, 10, high school, whatever age, whatever he's doing, sports, class, whatever it may be, and he looks at you and he says, 'Daddy, I want to quit.'" And I said, "Well, you can't do that." And then he says, "Well, you did." I'm here to tell you that hit me like a freight train. Anyone who knows me well knows that I really have just traditional values. I think about the future. I think about building a foundation, a family, really just trying to be a loving man, loving all people and all these different things. But as it pertains to my family, like there's nothing more. I will sacrifice everything. And when she said that, I sat there for a minute and I was like, oh my gosh, she's right. I cannot run away from this. And I knew that I was doing the work behind the scenes, but unfortunately, media can be really powerful or the opposite end of the spectrum. And I knew in my heart what was right would be to continue to face this, and at some point, like yesterday, have a piece finally come out and explain what I had been up to. Like I said, I have no shame admitting it. I was scared. I was terrified of what people thought of me. I was terrified to go back in front of a podium. I admittedly still am a little scared of what it might feel like if a fan shouts something at me.
Right.
But I have to, I guess, rely on the fact that I know I'll continue to do the work. I have put in and developed, thankfully, so many loving relationships within the Jewish community and outside of the Jewish community because of a mistake. So many people have reached out to me specifically yesterday and said, "Wow, man, I mean, I know I'm your friend, but that takes a lot of courage." So, I'm trying not to get choked up here, but it's been a long time coming. And just back to Ellie and Liam, I just will sacrifice everything for them. And when she said to me, "You got to keep going," like I said, she's the rock. She knows me better than anybody else, and so I'm thankful that she was able to finally get me to a place of understanding.
Well, I think that smile says everything when you mention Liam's name, and they're not going to mean everything for today, but for the future and generations as well. You keep bringing up this word fear. I want to bring up a teaching within our own tradition. I'll say it in Hebrew, but also in English. Kol ha'olam kulo, that the entire world is a narrow bridge. But then it says, ha'ikar lo lafached klal, that the essence of what we all should do is not be afraid. And so, is it a fear? We've talked about the fear of the other, but is there also a fear of our own self? Is there a difference in what you're speaking about there? I know it's more of a rabbinical philosophical question.
That's okay.
Usually I'm asked that, but now I get the pleasure of asking you that. Is there a difference between the fear of what somebody else is going to think or the fear of what actually, of who we are?
Well, it's both, for sure. At the end of the day, we're the ones looking in the mirror. We're the ones who have to go to sleep at night. When we put our head on the pillow, there's a million thoughts going through our head. I can say wholeheartedly, but also in complete humility, I know that I have an extremely loving heart inside of my body and
we all know
and
that.
a pure soul. And did I make a huge mistake? Yes. And it hurts, and it will always hurt. However, it's healing, and today, seeing these kids, seeing the smiles on their faces, helps me heal.
Wow.
That's
powerful.
I was thinking about this, what it might be like for someone in the media ask me a hard question, for example. And I thought to myself, First of all, I've already been asked all the tough questions. But hard is pulling up to a Chabad 48 hours after everything happened and saying, I will never forget, I cried the entire way there, 1 hour straight. And for about 3 minutes, I looked at the GPS and I was like, come on, man, just
Can't
put
do
yourself together. And I just remember seeing, quite possibly at the time, the most religious man I'd ever seen standing there waiting for me to park my truck and walk into the Chabad with him. And I just said, just go be yourself. And everything's going to be okay. And hard is going to Miami Beach Jewish Community Center, hosting a basketball camp, and the very first morning crying for a good 30 seconds and then putting myself back together and explaining to them what had happened, and that I was extremely sorry, but that I was excited to teach them about basketball, but also about life,
Yes.
and that our words have power, and we have to be careful what we say and who we're just period. It can hurt people. While mine was unintentional and ignorant, I still own that, and I know that I can help so many people by facing this head on as I have. And so, gosh, you were asking me about the inner being, but also I'm afraid, admittedly, and I'm thankfully getting there, of the you can't really care what everyone thinks about you because you're just going to tear yourself down continually.
Right.
It's difficult. I've always been a people pleaser. I want everyone to love me. But frankly, happened for you. Now, after yesterday, in particular, after the Outside the Lines with Jeremy Schaap, I think I'm much closer to understanding that. Because if someone in a rational mind, likely an adult, can watch that and still not like me or at least have an understanding, then that's on them, not me.
And that's
And
a
that's
very
hard.
Jewish teaching as well. I know I've watched many of your podcasts with the Jewish community and speaking about Maimonides and his idea of forgiveness. We sit now in an empty sanctuary, but on the high holy days, on the Day of Atonement, there are 3,000 people here thinking about these ideas exactly. We have to give the power of words, but it's not magic. We all, meaning the clergy and the people, need to walk outside of this building and take the power of words into action. And what you said about healing, I think, is really powerful, that, we're not watching you try to heal us, but you just said it's us, in fact, helping you heal, which is turned it on its head, but realizing that we need to be part of that process, and that's what it sounds like you're also going through.
I just want to run through a few things here, and I promised myself I wouldn't do this on Outside the Lines, but I'm more willing to do it here in front of you.
Let's do it.
So speaking to Penny at the Chabad, for example, 48 hours after, and sadly that morning I also had to send my wife home because I was terrified for her safety. We had 24-hour security outside the house. She was, for the better part of a year, she was receiving rape and death threats every day. I didn't even look at my social media because I just couldn't handle it. So I was sitting with Penny, and we finished probably 2-3 hour conversation, and we had talked about quite a lot, life, some things in Judaism. He said, "You ever heard of Shabbat dinner?" It's like, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't explain it to you. I've maybe seen it somewhere on social media. He said, "Well, that happens on Friday." I said, "I did know that." He said, "Would you come to Shabbat dinner?" I said, "Yeah." So this was Thursday morning. I was at his Chabad. Friday night, I was at his house for Shabbat dinner.
It's still going on, right?
What's that?
It's still going on.
What do you mean?
That's how long the Shabbat.
Oh yeah. Okay, I was just going to get there. So he had said to me, "Look, I'm going to invite a bunch of people from the Jewish community, from young kids who are basketball fans to a man named Michael Kaufman. Still love that man for his willingness to share with me. Born in a German DP camp, has experienced anti-Semitism his entire life, and he's shared so many of those stories with me. Again, his pain in the weirdest of ways, but his love directed towards me helps me heal because I'm learning in real time and feeling the emotions of a man sitting across me that's been through so much. And I made such a ridiculous mistake, but yet the very people who have been hurt throughout history are trying to help heal me.
Yes.
And it's just, I don't take this, it's such a beautiful, it really is a beautiful thing. And that, because then Penny and I had such a strong relationship. I mean, I was there I will never forget. I pulled into his driveway at I think like 7:05, and I left at 12:14 a.m. Exactly. It was a powerful night I believe for both sides. For the kids to listen to me talk about basketball, you see the smiles on their faces, but then we get into some more grown-up talk, and man, listening to Michael talk about his experiences and some other adults at the table. I'm sitting there now. We're only 3 days out. And I'm thinking, like, holy smokes, man, these people just want to help me. Mm-hmm. And I was terrified pulling up, like, okay, I've never been to a Shabbat dinner. What are these people going to think of me? Only Penny's met me, yet all it was love. I did a Passover event with Penny. Nice. Incredible. We took meals around different parts of, the Boca Raton area. Mm-hmm. I met 2 survivors that day. And I was blown away.
What was your knowledge of the Holocaust previously to meeting Michael and meeting these survivors?
Just what you would learn in middle school and high school in the history books. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a extremely evil time period, and so many lives lost for no reason. Mm-hmm. Other than hate. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for me to even say that word because it stings because of what happened to me, and it was my mistake. Uh-huh. But I'm thankful to know in spending time with so many Jewish people that even within 5 minutes of a conversation, even if they had a little bit of a question mark about me,
right,
I think they feel and know me as a human right away.
Absolutely.
And I'm just so thankful. I will say that the rest of my life because the truth is like I've said, I wonder all the time, even still, maybe a bit, like, gosh, am I ever going to run into somebody that just, I don't know, completely lashes out or something because they're that upset with me, and because the Holocaust, or just anti-Semitism as it persists today, mm-hmm. is just so ugly. Mm-hmm. And it kills me it's like a stain on my name almost, and I'm just continually trying to cleanse it, frankly.
Well, you're more than cleansing because, like we said, we can do this from the inside, but when you have an ally like you from the outside who both looks in but then also brings out, what we like to say here at Sinai Temple is what we do here should be felt outside. But as importantly, what we do outside should be brought in. And you are the quintessential amazing human being, a mensch, that you probably know that word now, that is doing that work. That is understanding that you are healing us, but we also are healing you, and that you can be that, in Hebrew, the shaliach, the messenger, out as well. And one final question. Why now? Why yesterday? Why not in a year? Why not 4 months ago? And because of yesterday, what does tomorrow bring for all of us?
Okay, so I want to add a quick note here. Ephraim, who was a part of the piece yesterday on Outside the Lines, Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg, Boca Raton Synagogue, did a basketball camp there. But he and I had a couple of really high-level lunch meetings together, if you will. And at the end of the first one, he told me 2 things that will always stick with me for the rest of my life. At the end of the conversation, he said to me, Meyers, I need you to know you're obviously a loving man with a massive platform, and you can impact people as you always have and you'll continue to do. I said, yeah. He said, Jewish people can talk to Jewish people all they want about anti-Semitism and how real it is today, and we could teach each other about the Holocaust and everything that's happened. But it's when an ally like yourself, who didn't know anything about Jewish culture or the community, has now been inserted into said community, you have such a real opportunity to impact not only our community as an ally, but people in general, to help them understand that we all have to learn, we all have to continue to heal and fight for what's right. I will never forget him saying that. Like, he, again, love is saying, Meyers, you're a good man. You are an ally now. We appreciate that. And I didn't think of it that way, but it makes so much sense. I have, thankfully, an ability now to, through a mistake, help heal not only people, but more specifically, even the Jewish community, based upon how I approach everything that's happened.
And so we're all flawed. That's human life. In fact, if you look at the Bible, the best heroes are flawed. Moses couldn't speak because he had a slurred speech. He had a stutter. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, all the people in the Bible, they're flawed, and that's why they became the greatest leaders. And so talk to that next NBA player that's going to make a mistake and tell them what they should do so that we can have this conversation again.
Yeah, totally. The only thing I knew to do for me personally was to follow my heart and to go directly to the community that I had unintentionally hurt and make it right, period. And say you're sorry. You know, I've learned of teshuvah. The feelings that I felt were so real, and I felt so bad. And I understand now that we have to understand, we have to feel bad and rationalize, like, what has happened? Okay, and now let me go to whom I hurt, say I'm sorry, and continually make it right. And that's just a continual carousel, if you will, of, okay, I made a mistake, well, I better go make this right. And so that's my hope for anybody else, regardless of the severity of the mistake, who it was directed at, or whatever you did. It's just important for all of us to look in the mirror and say, how can I be better? How can I continually love other people? How can I impact other people? And so that's my goal. My goal is, of course, obviously to get back to the NBA as well, which will give me, you know, so many people have said, Meyers, everybody loves a redemption story. You know, coming back in the spotlight is probably scary, but it gives you such an opportunity to speak about what happened and what you've done since then. And so that I'm thankful for.
And Meyers, we are thankful for you because your story is our story and our story is your story. And it's not just a Jewish story. It is a story of humanity. It is a story of redemption. It is a story of forgiveness. It is a story of healing. Most importantly, it's a story of goodness, of what this basketball can do to bring people together in a world that needs you and many, many, many more Meyers Leonard in the future as well. We are truly delighted that Meyers Leonard has joined us here at Sinai Temple on Rabbi On The Sidelines, a new friend of Sinai Temple, and hopefully a very long one as well. Have a great day.
Thank you.